Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, something cuts out.
I see.
Yeah. So, Greg, first of all, I want to thank you for the interview, for the opportunity.
That's fine. That's fine. It's a pleasure.
And then I want to thank you for your latest album.
Ah, good.
Uh,
Thank you very much.
then there are a couple of people who asked me to say hello to you
Right.
when uh, when I told them that I interview you this week because I interviewed them before. One is Miss Judy Dybel,
Oh, yes.
and the second is Dave Ball from Procol Harum and Bedlam.
Right.
So they send their hello to you.
Good. Thank you very much.
So before we begin interview per se, I want to propose one thing within this interview. I'd like to talk to you about you. Okay, we will be mentioning, of course, ELP and King Crimson, but I'd like you to concentrate on yourself because my point is to show the musician not only as a musician but mostly as a person.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Ask the questions, man.
Okay, so now you're on your tour and you have trying to have a book out. It looks like you're taking stock of your career. Is it right? You're gonna finish it, or it just just a phase that you're in?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Uh, you're taking stock of your career. It's like
Well, it's my autobiography.
just that. No, nothing more.
Sorry.
Okay, but it looks like you're not only a great musician, but also a great storyteller, a great raconteur.
Well, you know, the point is that I think all musicians have a lot of stories to tell. Because I suppose we travel around the world so much that you get to meet so many people and experience so many things. And I really didn't have any intention to write an autobiography, but one day my manager came up to me and he said, Greg, you really ought to write all these things down because, if you don't, all of these stories, all of these things that you've seen and done, they'll become lost. And I suppose that I realized that really it's all about sharing. Music is about sharing. And I think that's really the spirit I wrote this book in, is that to share these stories with the people who have been with me on this musical journey for the last, 40 years. And it was when I wrote the autobiography that the idea, these songs would pop up from time to time that were very important to me or important to my career. And at the end of writing the autobiography, I realized that, these songs really represented that journey. And it was that gave me the idea to do the tour, Songs of a Lifetime, and share the stories and share the songs. The book itself will hopefully come out at the end of the summer.
In the book form or on the USB?
It'll come out. What I'm going to do is I tried to do it as a USB, 3 USB volumes, but it's a real problem getting them made, getting them to work correctly. It's a big hassle to get it all done. So what I've decided to do now is to release the book as a hard copy book, paper, a hardback book, and also an online download.
Okay, so looks like you're gonna have another first edition in your collection.
Well, I suppose so. Yes, yes.
And this your show, how does it correspond with this old line, on the death of inspiration, I would buy back yesterday?
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't really know what you mean by that question.
I mean that you wrote that line. It's from your song, but
Yes.
it's like you're really buying back your yesterdays. You're trying to remember. You're remembering what has been before, and are you discovering something in the past now when you're doing this show that you completely forgotten about previously?
Um, no, no, no. It's not. It's not that. It is literally that I'm sharing these experiences that I've lived through with the audience. I'm sharing them together in a new way, in a way where we literally sit in a small theater in an intimate room, and I tell stories, and the audience tells stories, and I play through the songs, and so it is in a way a walk down memory lane. Yeah, it is, but it's in a new way, and music passes from soul to soul, and in that way, it's the sharing which is important. And I think now, when I think of my whole life, I see how important that word sharing is, because that's exactly what happens. You share the music, and you share the feelings, and you share the memories with the audience.
Yes, I get it. But what I don't understand, on the CD, Sound of a Lifetime, there is a full band, or you play alone to the backing tracks.
I created a soundtrack for the show, um, and it took me over a year to make it. And all of the tracks are newly recorded. What I did, though, I wanted to I wanted to make it an interesting show, not just me sitting on a stool strumming an acoustic guitar, um, a legend in his own lunchtime. I wanted it to be an exciting show, a dynamic show. And actually, people often think that, I wrote a lot of acoustic songs. I did write them on acoustic, but almost everything I recorded, was recorded either with an electronic band or with an orchestra. So, I could have done 2 hours of sitting there with an acoustic guitar and nothing else, but I felt that would be boring, and I thought the show would be more emotional and more stimulating and more dynamic, if I created this special soundtrack. And so that's what I did. And it's quite interesting because I not only play my songs, but I play songs by people like Elvis Presley,
And the Beatles.
and the Beatles. Yeah.
But all this acoustic, it's like you always like to me in ELP, a kind of an acoustic minstrel, but an acoustic minstrel in the most pompous of bands. So do you see this, like strange thing?
It was strange. I think it was one of the things that people liked about ELP, really, was the dynamic of it. At one moment the band would be very intense and screaming and loud, powerful, and the next minute it would be beautiful and gentle and soulful and emotional.
But then you looked always, like a rock in the eye of a hurricane, a kind of independent entity, because uh, Carl and Keith, they just like this big heavy instrumentalist, and
Yeah.
you do you feel? I mean, felt? Have you felt somehow independent from the band
Well, yeah,
at certain points?
I think as a singer, a singer has a different way of emotionally connecting. You know, when you play an instrument, you are passing your feelings through that instrument. When you sing, it is really a direct connection. there's no instrument. I mean, your voice is an instrument, but in reality, you know, your feeling is being expressed directly. And I think that in that way, it's easier to be more emotional, to express emotion in a way better. But I mean, Keith used to play some very beautiful things on piano. And so, you know, it would sometimes, and I would do some very intense things. I mean, in my career, I've done things like Schizoid Man or Welcome Back, My Friends, things like that. And so, you know, it's not that I just play ballads, but it is something that I enjoy doing. As a singer, I can express feeling that way.
But you appear to be a singer in at least two bands who preferred instrumental art to traditional song form. So they like playing a soul part, being a soul of those bands. I mean, Crimson and ELP.
Well, I mean, I was the voice of those bands. Um, I think if a band is just purely instrumental, it cuts itself off from a lot of people because people really relate to songs, you know, mostly to songs. They enjoy instrumental music, but for some reason it seems to be songs that connect with people more easily.
But don't you feel that you uh, are not praised enough as an instrumentalist on the level of, say, Emerson of Rip? I found you a fantastic bass player, but everybody says about Carl, about Keith, about Robert, but not about you as a player. Isn't it strange?
Um, I don't know. I think I've got a lot of recognition as a bass player over the years, but playing bass is a supportive instrument, you know. Um,
Yes, but you know, to me, you come from the same school of bass playing as, say, Jack Bruce, where bass is very melodic and not only supports rhythm.
uh, yes, I do. I do come from a similar time. I don't. I can't answer your question really. You know, I enjoy playing the bass. I enjoy playing the guitar, um, but mainly, I suppose, I'm a singer, and that's how I see myself.
All right, but if we mentioned LP, what in your eyes people still see in that band? They play music not for average listener, but what do people see in LP to want the band to return? To talk about reunion all the time.
Well, I think people always ask that question. I mean, I toured some years ago. I toured with Ringo, and every time anyone would do an interview, they would always ask him, "Do you think the Beatles would ever reform, or do you think you'd ever, you know, put it together with Paul McCartney?" I mean, people always want to go back to the things they loved. That's understandable, you know.
Yes, but Beatles, it's they played plain songs that everybody could connect and relate to. But ELP, it's complicated, it's sophisticated. It's not for average, you know, punter.
No, well, it is a different type of music, and it is quite complicated, complex. Some of it is, um, but I think you know, as far as people asking about the band reforming, it's just something that every musician who's been in a famous band is always asked that question, that
No,
same question.
not everybody. I'm not sure that Peter Gabriel is asked about Genesis.
Well, I'm sure he is, you know, because that's how he began, you know. and it was an important part of his career.
And what was the most important part of your career?
Well, I think today, for me, right now is important, because I've done what I've done. It's something that I'm very proud of what I've done. But the most important thing to me is really what I'm doing now and the future.
Don't you miss big audiences such as that you had at California Jam?
Uh, I sometimes play to big audiences. It depends really what I'm doing. Right now, the Songs of a Lifetime is all about sharing a very intimate, um, this intimate journey. It's an intimate show, so it wouldn't really work in a big arena because I'm actually telling stories, and people in the audience tell their stories, and I play them songs, and it's very much like almost like a family gathering. It wouldn't work on a bigger scale, you see.
But in on bigger scale, it takes some balls. And if you mentioned California Jam, how did you feel following that Blackmore's trick about blowing everything away? You followed Black Sabbath, you followed Deep Purple. How did you feel to be headliner?
I never really was very interested in who played when, who was headlining and who wasn't. Because in the end, you're in competition with everyone in the world, and you're as good as you are. And that's the be all and end all of it. I mean, if you're great, then you'll be great. And if you're not, you won't be. So we used to go on and play and just play as well as we could. And that was what we did. We didn't really, it wasn't important to us who else was on the bill. We always went down well, and we were always, giving everything we had. And so it was out of our control, really. We gave everything we possibly could. There's no more you can do. So, there was nothing to worry about. And so that was it, really.
But you always came out like a kind of very humble person, and then even your early bands were called the Shame and Shy Limbs. Uh,
Yeah, well, I learned very quickly to be humble, because no matter how good you are, there's always someone better. That's the way of the world. No matter how rich you are, there's always someone richer. So, and I realized that, no, I don't believe I had a lot of talent. I just was lucky. I was really lucky to start playing very young. And of course, by the time I was 16 years old, maybe, people would say, oh, he's really talented. He's great. But I wasn't. It was just that I started very young. And so I was really good, even when I was, 15 years old. And that was just being lucky to start early, really. And I would advise anybody that has got any young person that's got a strong feeling about wanting to do something, whether it's to be a tennis player or an actor or a musician or a scientist or whatever, to get into it as young as you can, because, you're very, very powerful and mentally powerful when you're a teenager. You're very strong. You can learn very fast.
and you said twice that you were lucky, which brings us to lucky man. Uh,
Yes.
Let me ask you about I know it's the first song you wrote, but did you really write about having ladies by the score being a 12-year-old?
I wrote those words, yes. I wrote the song as it was. It was kind of, look, it was just an imaginary fantasy, medieval fantasy fairy tale. And You know, I didn't even write it on a piece of paper. It just, I just remembered it.
Yeah,
You know,
but you mean that this line about having lighted by the score received its sexual connotation later on?
well, I suppose as a young kid, that seemed like, you know, what can you say? It seemed like the ultimate in privilege, you know. You know, you had endless money, endless ladies, endless, you know. It was just to say how lucky this guy was, but in the end, he wasn't so lucky, you know. A bullet had found him, and his blood ran as he cried, you know, and as he died, and you know, it was just a really a little fairy tale, you know, and it didn't have any meaning at all, really, until we recorded it with the LP, and then I think it became connected more with the Vietnam War, and people took this to be in some way as a sort of parallel with a soldier going to war and then dying, you know. Of course, that wasn't what it was written about, but that's how people took it. Songs change, you know. I mean, everyone has got their own understanding of what a song is.
But
Yeah,
makes a song timeless, really.
I suppose it does. I mean, you know, but it's strange. People have their own, you know, their own impression of what a song means to them. And I've learned over my career that it's better to let people have their own understanding of a song. You know, it's much better for someone because that's how you share it. The interpretation of a song by the person who listens to it is their own creation. It belongs to them. It's their understanding. It's their way of feeling that song.
Yeah,
So,
but sometimes you are not so vague. I mean, the song, later song, Daddy. I mean, this song, I know what it's about, but I mean, this song could only have been written from the point of view of father of a girl.
yes, well, you know, that was a specific song written from a specific experience. And it
Yeah,
was a real,
but you have a daughter as well.
well, I do, yes. And I suppose that is why when I heard about this young child being murdered, that is why it hit me so hard. And I think writing the song really was a way of getting it out of my system because it was just haunting me, you know. And I just had to write it really. It was a way of putting it down, getting it out in a way. And then it got used for charity, which was a whole nother aspect to it. But that was a specific song about a specific thing.
Yeah,
But
but you know, yeah, carry on.
well, different songs have different applications, you know. But a lot of songs have, you know, have more vague meaning, and they can be interpreted in different ways.
Yeah, and about your youthful experience, there was a band you were early in proto super group that I'd like to ask you about, the Gods.
Yeah, I really wasn't in the gods for very long. It was very brief, and I just did it. Really, I did it to move up to London. I lived in the countryside, you know, in Bournemouth, in Poole, actually, in Dorset, which is maybe 100 miles from London. And I really, you know, a musician at that time really needed to be in London because that's where everything was happening. So I got this phone call one day and from an ex-manager, and he said, "Look, I don't know if you'd be interested, but they're looking for someone to play in the Gods, and you know, it would bring you up to London. You could make a record with them, and you know." So I did it, but I never really had anything common in musically I didn't really connect musically with anyone there, and I wasn't in it very long. I only played live shows, really.
But it was Ken Hensley and the Lickers, right?
Yes, right. Yes, right. Yeah, yeah, it was.
But
Uh,
you played guitar or bass?
both, really. Um, a mixture of both.
So you proceeded to King Crimson, and they proceeded to Uriah Heep.
Yeah, they went on to Uriah Heep, and I formed King Crimson with Robert Fripp.
Did you follow the guys in Uriah Heep?
No,
Uh, and then you moved it to King Crimson, and do do you think you influenced a lot of heavy metal players by singing 21st Century Schizoid Man?
I think we did in a way. Yeah, I think we did. It is a very heavy track in that sense. And funnily enough, I heard a version the other day by a Norwegian band. Very, very heavy indeed. They'd done it at half speed. So I can see the connection for heavy metal in it. I can. Um, but again, it was used by Kanye West in his song Power.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a lot of different ways of being interpreted, I think. But it still sounds contemporary to me, that song.
Yeah, sure. But on that first King Crimson album,
Mm.
was it more Fripp's vision or Ian MacDonald's vision? Because nobody gives much credit to Ian MacDonald, which I think is unfair.
I think it's unfair. Ian was a very big writer in the whole thing. Um, I think what happened was that when Ian left the band really broke up. When Ian and Mike left, the band broke up, and I formed ELP. And Robert carried on with King Crimson, and so he became really the name attached with King Crimson. Ian and Mike, in a way, got a bit left behind because they didn't really, they weren't big in featuring in any other major bands. Ian did play for Foreigner,
Yeah.
but I went on and formed ELP, which was a very big band, and so people knew my name, and they saw how my career carried on. They saw Robert carrying on with King Crimson, but in a way, Ian and Mike kind of faded back out of the scene quite a lot, and I think that's why that happened. But you're right to say that Ian MacDonald was a very big part of King Crimson. And that is why when he left the band and he and Mike Giles left the band, that is why I didn't want to carry on with Robert. Robert wanted to carry on with the name King Crimson, and I just didn't feel that that was honest, that we could just replace Ian and Mike and pretend nothing had happened.
But you mean that it was all in the name, or you somehow took looked at the way of creativity? Did you think that without McDonald there wouldn't be so high level of creativity?
I just didn't think that it would be honest to keep the name King Crimson and do it without Ian and Mike, because
But,
they were so.
but if they changed it to something different, would you go for it?
I said to Robert, if you want to form a new band, we could do that. I would be happy to form a new band, but I just didn't feel comfortable continuing with the name King Crimson and keeping Ian and Mike without Ian and Mike, and just replacing them as if it was anybody could replace them. Ian wrote so much of the material that I just think he was part of the identity of King Crimson.
Yeah, no, it throws an interesting arc. You're talking about in Final Day in King Crimson, and Judy Dybel 3 days ago told me about how he brought Ian MacDonald into Giles and Fripp. It's an interesting story. By the way, have you heard Judy's version of C'est la vie.
Yes.
So, do you like it?
Not really.
So, could you expand on that?
I'm sorry?
Or why don't you like it?
I don't know. It's hard to say. You know, when you hear records, they either grab you or they don't, you know.
Okay, and that was a song that you wrote with Peter Sinfield.
Well, actually, I wrote it and Pete kind of finished it off, helped me finish it off.
So, but did you have any special connection, creative connection with Pete?
Oh, yeah. And Pete and I co-wrote all throughout King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, but you're no mean lyricist yourself.
No, I'm not a mean lyricist. I mean, I wrote a lot of songs on my own. I wrote a lot with Pete, and a lot of the lyrics that Pete and I did together, I wrote. So it was a collaboration, you know.
And you produced Pete's album, right?
Well, not really. Pete and I did it together, I think, as I remember. But I did go in there and help him, you know, because we worked so closely together. You know, he said, "I want to make this album. Would you help me do it?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." You know, and so, but he had quite a clear idea of what he wanted, you know.
Okay, and as I know, you're not a very big fan of the Love Beach album, but would it be right to say that it reflected more of your vision because it was more song-oriented?
No, it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right. It's not that Love Beach is a bad album. It was an album that the band really didn't want to make. We were forced to make it contractually. But once we decided to do it, we gave it our best shot. And you know, it's not. Now I look back on it, it's not a bad record. There's some nice things on it. But again, you know, I mean, Pete and I did some of the work on it. Keith did a lot of work on it. No, it was just another ELP album, but it wasn't the best of ELP records, you know. It wasn't Tarka's Trilogy, Brain Salad Surgery, Pictures at an Exhibition, or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, All Works Volume 1. It wasn't that quality. It was an album that was tired creatively.
Yeah, but you know, maybe that's because I just recently listened to that album for the first time because I never made to it back in the day.
Right.
But it somehow, you know, to me it sounded somehow connected to what you do now because The Gambler reminded me of Elvis and his Guitar Man.
Yeah.
And for you was like a soul influence, and you love soul. I know it.
Yeah. Well, I, you know, The Gambler. We used to do a song. You know, what we used to do on ELP. It became almost traditional that we would do some sort of light-hearted song. We used to do things like The Sheriff and Jeremy Bender and all these things. They were kind of funny songs, really, because I think ELP was quite a dark band in many ways, you know, and I think we just tried to lighten it up somehow. We just felt it was good to have something that was just light and, you know, humorous or just carefree on the record. And so I think The Gambler was in that sort of, it was that part of the record, really.
But didn't it come from Elvis's influence?
Do you know, I cannot honestly remember how it came about.
No, I mean just the sound of it. You know, it's like Elvis's Guitar Man. You know, close to that old rockabilly stuff.
I don't think it did. And if it did, it's just an accident, really. But there may have been some influence. I'd have to listen to it again. I haven't heard it, to be honest, for many years. I'd have to go back and listen. But sometimes, things can, you can pick up influences without even realizing it.
Yeah, sure.
Mm.
Yeah. And what about your, if you mentioned you're the producer, what about Spontaneous Combustion and Keith Christmas and Stray Dog? All these Manticore acts.
Yeah, well, this was to do with Manticore, really. I mean, I had this idea of starting a label to help develop artists that were finding it hard to get record deals because, the record business had become such a big money business that some artists were just not able to get into it. If you didn't get a big record deal, you just couldn't compete. And I just knew a few really great artists, like the ones you've just mentioned. And I just didn't want them to go by and not be able to have a career. And so I decided to form this label, Manticore. Problem was that ELP took up such a lot of our time that we just didn't have enough time to really run the label properly. And so in the end, what we did is we got the artists, we got them all deals with various record companies, and we shut it down. Strangely enough, I'm just about to reopen Manticore Records because I'm going to start doing a whole series of vinyl records of mine and, of course, other people's. I'm just interested in vinyl.
And who you gonna sign?
I'm not sure yet.
But that old Manticore, was it a subsidiary of Island?
Uh, well,
Or was it independent?
it was an independent label, but we distributed through Ireland in Europe and Atlantic in America.
And one of the acts that I mentioned was a Stray Dog. But
Yeah.
they're American. So was it you who brought them over to England?
Yes, I think it was actually. I think they must have written to us or something, or sent a demo in maybe. But yeah, as soon as I heard them, I realized that they were terrifically talented and fantastic. And funny enough, the lead guitar player, a guy called Snuffy Walden,
Snuffy Walden, yeah.
he's become a very successful film score.
Yeah, I know. The first time I heard about him when he played instead of Paul Kossoff on the Free record.
Yeah. He's great, Snuffy.
And he played on your first solo album.
Did he?
On Greg Lake. He played on the Greg Lake album.
I don't think he did. I think you'll find that was Steve Lukather or Gary Moore.
Yeah, and there's Wikipedia has it as 3 guitars: Gary Moore, Steve Lukather.
No. Wikipedia has all things in there. That's a fantasy. That's internet fantasy. Wikipedia. I read it sometimes and I think, where did they get this information? I think having people just post stuff up there is very, very loose.
Yeah, but I know. I think that when it comes to a record, they just reprint what's on the cover.
Well, maybe. I don't think you'll find Snuffy played on that first album.
Okay, but did you use extraneous bass players? Being a bass player yourself?
Yes. On my solo stuff,
Yes.
I played guitar. I played all guitar.
But there was Gary Moore.
Yeah, and there was Gary Moore too. We both played guitar.
Very familiar with Gary's work with Colosseum 2?
Yep.
So you somehow said that it wasn't you who brought Gary into your fold. But when you heard that Gary can come and play, what did you think about Thin Lizzy or about Colosseum 2?
I didn't really have any opinion. I just loved the way Gary played. I liked him as a person. we got on very well together. We both loved guitars, and we became very close friends until the day he died, actually.
But you didn't know him personally before your first record.
No, that's right. I didn't. No, I didn't know him.
So by which record of his did you know his playing?
No, by no record.
So didn't you hear it before at all?
No. Somebody recommended him. I had co-written a song with Bob Dylan. It's called I Love You Too Much. And I wanted to have a very blistering, fast guitar solo on the record. Just on this one song, I had this, I could hear in my mind a very fast, solo. And I don't really play guitar like that. And I said, I was recording at Abbey Road, and I asked my manager, I said, I really need a guitar player who plays these blindingly fast, ripping rock solos. And for some reason, he had been working with some project with Gary. And he said, oh, the guy that might suit you is Gary Moore. I'll ask him if he would come in and play and see how it goes. So they got Gary to come into Abbey Road, and we met, said hello. He went out in the studio. He put his guitar on.
Yeah,
and played the song.
I read that story.
Yeah, and that was it. And that was the first time I really heard Gary play, in the sense of identifying him, And he was just fantastic. And
but he became a perfect foil for your song, right?
He did. It was wonderful, and that is the wonderful thing about Gary. He's so good. He was so good that he really could play anything. I mean, people had no idea of the extent of what Gary could play. I mean, he could play country and western. Fantastic.
Like Rory Gallagher.
Yeah, well, I think Gary was in a different league personally, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, but is it a sign of your respect towards Gary that the first solo album by Greg Lake, called Greg Lake, started with a Gary Moore song, Nuclear Attack?
I believe it did. Just because it was a great song to start a record.
But he brought a ready-made song to you?
Well, he had that was written pretty much. I don't think I was involved in the writing of that at all. I produced it, but it was Gary's song.
And your solo albums are very, like A Woman Like You, another song by Gary. You sang it, it reminds me of Marvin Gaye, actually. Because did you try to be very soulful in your records?
I always try to be soulful.
Yeah. Okay.
But the reason, Gary was a very creative person, and I wanted to make sure that he had a voice in those records because he was putting his heart and soul into it. And, now and again, he'd have a good song. And so, I was happy to record them.
And were you happy to sing Phil Lynot's part on Parisian Walkways?
Yes. Wonderful song. Wonderful song. Another really evergreen song. It'll live on.
And there are two, not one, but two songs. For Those Who Dare and Farewell to Arms. That to my ears sound very Scottish. Do you have a Scottish heritage?
Not that I know about. But I do like Celtic music, Scottish music. There's something about the folk element that I like. I suppose it's, that is the minstrel part in me that I just love this music that's ancient.
but why did you stop your solo career in the 80s?
I can't remember. I think I got. I think I just got disenchanted with music and the music business. It just wasn't attractive. I just. It somehow the business changed, and I just didn't feel inspired. Really, I think was the reality of it.
But I guess there are many possibilities. I mean, not everybody can ask Bob Dylan for an unfinished song. But
No,
you did.
no, no. Well, yeah. I look. I really. I wanted to sing a Bob Dylan song, really, just as a tribute to him. I think he's one of the greats, if not the greatest. Guitar singing songwriter. Um, and I wanted to do a Bob Dylan song just as a tribute to him, but I didn't want to do one of the ones that were well known.
Like
And so,
basement tapes.
yeah, so I asked him if he had any new songs that were unrecorded that I could cover, and he sent over this tape of him doing this song called "I Love You Too Much." He'd written a couple of verses, that's all. He had the hook, and he said, "Look, why don't you finish that song, and then it'll be something that we've done together."
Did you approach him personally or via manager?
It was a friend of mine who used to be a tour manager of his who made the initial contact.
But I mean, you had the balls to ask him.
What do you mean?
I mean, but not everybody can dare and ask Dylan. But you felt well self-confident, disenchanted, as you say, but self-confident to ask him.
Just sounds like a silly question to me.
Okay. So sorry then. And
No, but I mean, why should I be afraid of Bob Dylan?
well, I don't know. It's not up to me to be, maybe not be up to me to ask this question because I dared ask Paul McCartney if he could use my lyrics. All right, I got it. But then you played with Asia.
No, just understand. By the time I'd approached Bob Dylan, I'd sold almost 40 million albums.
Okay.
Does that put it in perspective for you?
Yes.
There you go. Look, I tell you what, it's been fun talking to you. It's been a nice interview, but I think we've done enough now, and I've got to go. But it was lovely talking to you.
Thanks, Georg. But maybe there'll be a possibility for another 10 minutes another day.
I don't know. You'd have to arrange it with Billy.
Okay, I'll do.
Talk to Billy, but it was very nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope to continue for another 10 minutes to finish it off.
All right then.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Been a real pleasure.
Okay then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye now.